Wow, anything and everything can happen in cycling. And that was the case in the 2025 Giro d'Italia, the last decisive day, stage 20. We're up here at Sestriere, the last final climb of this race, after the climbers and the riders went over the Col delle Finestre, 2,100 meters up in the sky, descending and finishing here. The whole race turned upside down. We had a surprising result. And before I get into that, I want to let you know this coverage is brought to you by Bicycle.com. This is the best place online to buy and sell pre-owned bikes to cyclists worldwide. You have too many bikes in your garage or shed? No problem. Just head on over to bicycle.com/FloBikes and list your bikes in minutes. Oh, and also get your 30% off seller discount code. It was sunny when we started today, but now it's cloudy and some light drops are coming down, but that doesn't ruin the fiesta we had. I mentioned the sun, but it was an early start and I didn't get a chance to go out there and log any miles on Strava. And I would have loved to because we were staying in a farmhouse in Val d'Aosta, the smallest region in Italy, up in the northwest, and where the race started today briefly. And then we went into the neighboring region of Piemonte, and that's where it all exploded. We had a group up the road of around 30 or so riders. Importantly, Wout van Aert was in that group. He would come into play later because I'm going to spoil it for you right now. He helped Simon Yates, and Simon Yates laid down the law, took it over the Finestre, went solo, and took the pink jersey off of fighting Isaac Del Toro, who still kept his head up high, coming in the finish line, maintaining second overall, and a disappointed Richard Carapaz, who was bitter, upset at the finish. He tried so hard on the Col delle Finestre, but just didn't have it. And he said the most intelligent rider won today. And what did he mean by that? Well, all sorts of gamemanship happened there on the Col delle Finestre. We had the Col della Lys early on, and that whittled down the escape. In that escape, driving it so hard was Mads Pedersen in the Ciclamino jersey. Sneaky right in there was Wout van Aert, as Visma Lease Bike had done over the past days, putting a satellite rider in the move. UAE Team Emirates didn't have one. They'd been sending Arrieta up the road, but he would be held back to help Isaac Del Toro later on. Up at the front, well, things were whittling down, and eventually we had a move that went off the front, and it was Chris Harper and Alessandro Verre, and Chris Harper eventually distanced Verre. Chris Harper would be our stage winner and ride free to victory, J. Coalula. Congratulations for Harper for picking up the win, however. It's a major win, his biggest ever win to date. Back in the GC group, it was fireworks. It was everything you wanted in a Giro d'Italia last mountain stage, and it happened on the Col delle Finestre, going up to over 2,100 meters, the highest climb, the highest pass in this race. We had snowbanks on the side, we had fans going nuts, and we had gravel for the last 8K of the 18-kilometer climb. So high, it's the highest peak of the race, and they call it the Cima Coppi, named after the old late and great Fausto Coppi. Well, back behind EF Education, they had a plan in mind. The main group started, I think, the climb with around 10 minutes behind the escapees up front. EF Education was driving it with Darren Rafferty, with James Shaw, with Cepeda. Those boys were up there on the front setting a mean pace. Mikel Honore doing what they had to do to put Richard Carapaz in place, because Richard Carapaz, if he left it too late like he did yesterday in stage 19, he ain't gonna get a chance to win the Giro d'Italia. So he hit out early, bam, right away. Isaac Del Toro followed. Simon Yates was there. And we saw Derek G a little bit distance, but Derek has a strong motor. He doesn't have that same explosiveness. I spoke with him there at the finish line. He said he was just doing what he could do. They were attacking, and then all of a sudden Simon Yates launches. He goes, and at one point he attacks, and he gets free of those two, and Carapaz is looking around at Del Toro and saying, hey, yo, you're going to chase this? And Del Toro has been marking Carapaz. Obviously, Carapaz was his number one threat in the GC, sitting around 43 seconds back as we started the day with Adam Yates at 121, I think it is. He was the immediate threat. It was Simon Yates who was the immediate threat to Carapaz, and Carapaz was the immediate threat to Del Toro, so Del Toro was watching Carapaz, and they let Simon Yates go up the road, and they took a little gamble, and Carapaz kept attacking Del Toro, left, right, hitting him with everything he had. Del Toro kept following. Derek G was distant. Derek G came back because Carapaz was let off the gas a bit before he hit Del Toro again. Ecuador, Mexico, Ecuador, left, right, back, forth. All the attacks were coming. It was crazy. Derek G kept catching up. At one point, Derek G caught up and rode past the two. And then they attacked, and then they rode past Derek G again, who's sitting fourth place overall, the Canadian for Israel Premier Tech. But Simon Yates, up the road, just had one mission: to put in time, and to put in enough time to put Isaac Del Toro out of the pink jersey and to get sweet revenge on 2018 when he was in the pink jersey. He'd won like 3 or 4 stages in that year's Giro d'Italia. But then Chris Froome, from fourth overall, I think it was, took over, snapped Simon Yates, took the pink jersey at the end of the stage, was celebrating on the podium. I was there. The confetti was going up in the air, champagne, Prosecco up in the air. Simon Yates was just finishing as Chris Froome was putting on his jersey. He cracked Simon Yates that year, and Simon Yates took a little bit to recover from that. All of his years he rode with Mitchelton Scott, Jaco Alula, and only this year did he switch to Visma Lease bike. He went on later in 2018 to win the Volta a España. Well, Simon Yates was up the road, and he was on that mission. Back behind at one point, Richard Carapaz just shuts it down and says, yo, Isaac, if you want to do it, you do it. And Isaac was saying, hey, I'm not going to do it. And then they're watching the pink jersey right away off the shoulders of Isaac and into the virtual shoulders of Simon Yates up the road. It was a hell of a battle and mind games all around, and we were wondering, what is Richard Carapaz doing? Why does he just work on the front and pull back that gap enough to Simon Yates? But it was gone. It was gone. And oh, did I mention Wout van Aert? Yes, that would be key later. They kept picking up escapees, but they never picked up Van Aert. Then up there in the fog and the mist at the top of the Col de Finestre with the fans lining the road, we still hadn't seen Van Aert. Up the road was Harper. Simon Yates goes over the top, starts the descent, and wouldn't you know it, right after the descent, there's Van Aert. Just as he had shepherded Jonas Vingegaard back in the day on the Hautacam stage, here Van Aert is proving once again what a super rider he is. He drills it. He said it was the best 3K, the most fun he'd ever had on the front, just powering for Simon Yates, just drilling it with enough time, because he finished with 5 minutes on that pink jersey group. And at one point, that pink jersey group with Del Toro, the riders behind were catching, including Damiano Caruso, who's 5th overall, right behind Derek G. He attacked once, and when they were on the Sestriere climb, and Derek G had to chase him down. But up front, it was Simon Yates, the British rider, 32, riding to the pink jersey, riding to redemption, taking it. And what a day. Just as the raindrops came down, as a brief storm blew in here over the mountains, it didn't matter. Simon Yates was celebrating. Back behind when those riders came in, including Isaac Del Toro, as I mentioned, around 5 minutes back or so. Isaac Del Toro still kept a second place. A great result for our young Mexican friend. Still kept the white jersey that he had, so he takes home the white jersey. Tomorrow's a flat sprinter stage, and he's taken home tons of experience. Rafael Maica, spoke with him, teammate, key Mountain Domestique for Isaac, and of course Tadej Pogacar in other races, including the Giro d'Italia, which Pogacar won last year. He said, guys, he's young, 21 years old. He did a great Giro d'Italia. We should be super proud of him. And then he said, okay, next is the Tour de France, and we're going to win that with Tadej Pogacar. And Isaac Del Toro, for his part, came into the mix zone, and he was happy. He was okay. He was fine with it. He said, second place, I can live with it. And he was talking about the whole discussion with him and Richard going back and forth. I don't think those guys are getting along well. And Richard Carapaz was in tears at the finish line. We were there filming him. He was destroyed, broken, probably rethinking what he did. If his emotions got the best of him when he just eased off and didn't ride anymore, along with Isaac Del Toro. I don't know. What a stage, though. And you can't take away from Simon Yates and what he pulled off today. Behind that victory of Chris Harper in the Jaco Alula jersey, I wanted Isaac Del Toro to win. A Mexican winner would have been a great story, the first ever in the race. Instead, we got a British rider like it was in 2018, not Simon Yates, but when Chris Froome took it over from him. And he's going to go on to Rome tomorrow to finish. And his eyes were as pink as that jersey when he put it on. He was in tears. It was an emotional roller coaster. And to tell you the truth, we'd never seen Simon Yates so talkative as he was this morning. There was something in the air. We knew something was coming on. And in the finish, in the mix zone, he was just as talkative, and tears were coming out. He was super emotional. Wow. Great victory by Simon Yates today. Finestre lived up to its billing as one of those iconic climbs, gravel stage, great racing all around. Derek G secured his 4th place overall. He said that was the best he could do with those riders to have the explosiveness, But tonight, on the top of this climb up here, 2,000 meters, well, we're raising our glass. We're raising our glasses of wine, all the glasses of wine I had throughout these 20 days so far, to Simon Yates. Took the race in his hands today, took charge of the race. He took control. He's il boss of the Giro d'Italia, numero uno. Simon Yates will ride into Rome tomorrow in the pink jersey like a gladiator, in charge. Congratulations, Simon Yates, 2025 Giro d'Italia, Stage 20.